Yo, yo, yo. I am so excited to have Alec Baldwin on today's I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast. Leave a comment, tell a friend, leave a request. You got more people you want me to have on? Let me know. The thing I was saying about the athletes, there's a lot of particularly basketball podcasts, and they'll say, what was it like guarding Iverson? What was it like guarding Kobe? And for me, it's different because when you're going against Kobe, you're just trying to stop him. Acting, we're with them. But I just want to throw names at you and I want to say what makes them great. Blue Jasmine is really one of my favorite films, and a ridiculous performance, ridiculous character. The writing and the performance from Blue Jasmine, Cate Blanchett. What makes Cate Blanchett great?
She's indefatigable. She just has energy to spare. She's got no self-pity. She's not, there are men and women I work with who, not many, I don't want to say not many, who are very indulgent, and it's all like my hair, and they're in the makeup trailer for a long time, and they get on the set and they touch them up again, and everything is like we're posing for a still camera, like for photography. And Cate is somebody who was like, fuck that. She went out in the hallway and drank like 2 espressos, and she'd come back in the room where we had to do this fight scene. And she's just really, really tough, and she's really, really blazingly talented, but she really, really just had bottomless energy.
I love
she
that.
Could do take after take after take. And I thought she was going to clock me right in the face one scene. And I was like, go right ahead. I don't give a shit. This is amazing watching you do this. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Damn, that I love that so much.
She's powerful.
Oh man, you made my heart. Ed Harris, what makes him great?
Well, I think Ed is someone who has the great blessing of the great movie stars, where he has the facial symmetry. Ed's face, the mask of his face, pulls you in. He's so compelling looking. Those big watery blue eyes of his, and that real cowboy, tough, square-jawed thing, and he can and he can dial up a kind of I don't want to say menace, but an aggression, and he can dial it down and be very sweet as well. So he can do, I always call this, my phrase is the sweet and sour. He can do the sweet and sour, and a lot of it has to do, for most movie stars that I can recall, the ones that are the most memorable, the people who you can see into their eyes. They used to say that if you were working with an actor who you couldn't see into their eyes, they'd play a villain. That the hero always had to be somebody you could read them and look into their soul. And Ed just has that amazing face of his, you know what I mean? And always has. And I've always been jealous of him because he's just got this enigmatic face all the time.
I love that. Meryl Streep, who I'm sure you were a fan of before you started working as a film actor. You got to work with her, play with her. What makes, if you could even get into what makes...
That's tough because there's so many things to say. But from my experience, I would say that with her, it was, she doesn't let anything throw her. She doesn't get upset about anything. She doesn't allow anything, this is just my opinion, to blow her sails off the course that she's on. If the scene isn't going the way the director wants, or whatever's happening in the scene or off the set or what have you, she comes on the set and she is gracious and she is wise and she's generous. She's all the things you'd want a legendary actor or actress to be toward you if you weren't really at their level and you were intimidated. Because when I did the movie with her, the director, Nancy Meyer, said to me, she's 9 years older than you. And the men in the movie business have no problem dating and dialing down the ages of their leading ladies, some 20, 25 years. It's ridiculous. She said, the men do that. Why doesn't, it's complicated as the movie. And she said, how do you feel about that? I said, listen, my character doesn't want to have sex with his wife, his ex-wife. He's still in love with his ex-wife. There's a big difference. And I said, and Meryl is a very easy person to fall in love with. So when we did the movie, it didn't make any difference to me about age and whatever. And Meryl is a very easy person to fall in love with. Yeah, she's amazing. Great person.
I love this film, smaller film, Miami Blues.
Yeah.
The great Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah.
What makes her great?
Fearless and no self-consciousness. And, she was, there were many things that I liked about her, and the subtlety. I mean, she is a master of subtlety and did all these little small things and with facially and what have you. But she was fearless. Like one time we're doing a scene and I have to have sex with her, or you see the early blushes of that. And I'll never forget, she turned to me, I didn't know her. And she goes, now you can do anything you want to me in the scene. And when they say cut, you have to stop. But like whatever impulse you have to do, as long as you don't hurt me, she goes, whatever impulse you have to do something, she goes, you can do it in the scene. But when they say cut, you stop. She's like, you understand? And I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah, I understand. And
that's an interesting.
She was very, very. I don't want to just say professional. She's very wise.
I agree.
She's a woman that showed up on the set of a film. She was very young, and it's like what made Brando Brando. Brando figured it out while he still had the sheen of his youth and his beauty. They handed him a Rubik's Cube that meant the highest level of virtuosic film acting. And he went, zit, 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 zit. And he went, you mean like this? And everybody was like, oh my God. And he figured it out so young that where were the challenges for him later on, which is why he became so petulant.
Yeah.
And Jennifer was kind of the same way. Kirsten
Dunst?
No. Stewart. Kristen Stewart. I mean, I turned to her when we did Still Alice, and I made a fool of myself, and I said to her, we're doing a scene, and I go, you remind me of Marlon Brando. She looked at me like, what? And I said, I have no idea what you're going to do, take the take. And the variety wasn't that wide-ranging, but she would do little things. And I think that Kristen Stewart is a great actress as well.
I do too.
Yeah.
Are you a take person in terms of try this, try that, try this, try that? Or are you like, this is the sort of parameter? I mean, there's little tries, but like, are you like, I want to do one loud, I want to do one not loud, I want to do one soft, I want to do one angry, not, how do you approach things?
I think what it comes down to for me is that when I see the movie, and if the director agrees with me, there's a music to it, there's a rhythm. If the scene says, Jack drives up in a car, gets out of the car, goes into the bank, let's just shoot the fucking shot twice, get out of the car, go into the bank, and let's move on, because we can't love every scene. And then when you're in the scenes with people that you are more, they're a little bit more intense and more layered, I have a silly rule, especially if I work with younger actors, where I say, let's do it slow, medium, and fast in terms of the pace. Because there are scenes I've seen, I can't quantify how many, but there are scenes I've seen in films that I've done where they cut the scene because you can't speed up the energy of the scene in editing.
Interesting.
If people are doing the scene and they're kind of like, a lot of young actors do this. Ready? So you and I do a scene and they go, what time is it?
What time is it? Did you ask me what time it is?
Yeah.
It's 5 to 11.
Did you say 5 to 11?
No, now it's 4 to 11. I know what you mean.
And you want to go, you got to energize the scene.
Right.
Because you know what's going to happen? They're going to cut the scene.
Right.
If it sits there. So I always say to people, let's pace it up.
That's smart.
Pace it up. That
That's
way
smart.
We'll have a better chance of being in the movie.
I got you.
That's my opinion.
That's smart. That's smart. You didn't get to work with him in Glengarry. What makes Al Pacino great? You've spoken about him. You've done impressions of him.
Passion.
You're a fan of his.
Passion. He's just, even to this day. We did a thing for the studio. The Actors Studio, it's their 75th year, their anniversary last year. And now the celebration and the programming to celebrate the studio's 75th anniversary overlaps this year, this past fall into this spring. And they showed Dog Day Afternoon, at some famous movie theater that I forgot. It's up in Harlem or way uptown. It's like up on 135th Street. And this theater is gigantic. It like seats like, I don't know what it was, like 2,000 people.
Wow.
2,200 people. It's like a big music hall or whatever. I don't know the name of it, but I think it's a movie theater because they're screening the film. They show Dog Day. The place is packed. Now, many people bought VIP tickets to benefit the studio to go to a little party afterward, backstage. And but the bulk of the people there, or the overwhelming majority of people there, are there to watch the movie. I mean, they fill a theater way uptown in New York in the dead of winter, where it was pretty cold, and show Dog Day afternoon. And then I interview Al afterward on stage. We come out, we do a little Q&A. And I mean, people are like pissing their pants. They just love him. Al is somebody who, I mean, I've said this before, and I feel bad to repeat this, but it's the only thing I can think of. And that is, I said, other actors, I said this at the Lincoln Center tribute to Al. I said, other actors, when the movie's over, you're done. They've made you laugh. They've scared you. They've thrilled you. They've terrified you. They've made you fall in love. They've done all these things, and they're very funny, or they're very charming, or they're very sexy, what have you. But when the movie's over, you're done with them. You're ready to get out of the theater. I said, with Al, you're never done. When the movie ends, you want to go, no. You want more. There's a humanity to Al. There's a sensuality to Al. I mean, Al has everything. And he still loves, he got up there and he was talking to the audience, and he would make these comments, and you could just tell he still loves acting.
Loves it.
Loves it. Loves it.
What did you think rewatching Dog Day?
How sad it was that Cazale died. And Cazale was great. I mean, Cazale was so great. He was so great. Deer Hunter, Deer Hunter's a movie that's really tough to watch.
It ain't an easy movie.
It's a tough to watch. But the people who, like Bob,
This is this.
You look at Bob and you're like,
I was going to pivot to Bob.
Right.
You got to interview Bob on your NBC show.
I did that ABC show.
ABC show.
Right.
You love Bob like I love Bob. You got to work with Bob as a director. I interrupted you like Bob. Talk to me about Bob. Break down Bob Deniro as an actor. It's
impossible.
And when you interviewed him, were you able to get? Because I got to be honest, Alec, when you got to interview him, I was jealous because I was like, I want to interview him, but I've yet to see someone get. And you were trying. I've yet to see him.
He doesn't like to talk about. I get him on the phone, then I go. He goes, you want me to do this show of yours? Okay. And he said, the people told me it's an hour. It's an hour. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about for an hour? And I kind of froze, and I said, well, I thought we would start with your movie career. Maybe that would take us through an hour. He was like, you're very funny, Alec. You're very funny. And he comes, and what I think I said to him that I really meant, and he was very kind about this and accepted this, was I said, do you realize how much you mean to other people? I said, people come to acting as a fan of other people's acting. When you love acting, I don't know one person who came into this business and film and TV. And of course, the array can be anything. It could be the Dick Van Dyke Show. It could be Raging Bull. You don't give a shit. It can be Friends. It can be, Superman. People come into the business and they spent significant parts of their life appreciating other people and watching other people and having borderline obsessions with other people. How many times have I watched Raging Bull? How many times have I watched The Godfather? How many times have I watched Psycho, whatever? And you just can't get over. You watch the acting at the highest level and you're sitting there going, oh, I hope one day I have even an opportunity. Not that I'm going to do it, but I even have a chance to do something even close to that. And I said to Bob in the talk show, I said, do you realize what you mean to other people, that they've seen you and watched you in all these films do the greatest acting, among the top 25, 30, 50 men or whatever. And then women are in a different category as well. And he was like, oh, thank you. But I really meant it, you know. It's like Al, Nicholson, Dustin. I mean, I could go on and on. Keitel, Newman, Beatty, Redford of that generation. I know I'm leaving out some
Robert
people.
Duvall just turned 92.
Duvall.
Gene Hackman's alive.
Gene Hackman. Duvall, we always say the greatest performance in a movie is when he played Boo Radley, because he breaks your heart. He doesn't have one line. He doesn't say one line, not one. And there's the same guy who pulses. I mean, Duvall's kind of amazing, who pulses this sensitivity and this suffering and plays that character so beautifully. One of his first film roles. And that's the guy on the beach going, you know, playing Kilgore in Apocalypse. I mean, that range of what I call disposition. Is the character powerful in the world? Is the character strong in the world? Look at Orson Welles and Citizen Kane, how commanding and how facile he is, and how amazingly sharp he is and seamless. And then you see someone play a part like Duvall. I'm always looking for people who they play characters where that character is strong and confident and fearless, and then someone who's struggling and in a lot of pain. And can you do both those things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he seemed, because I was really thinking about his performances the other day when I saw he turned 92. He seemed in the, I mean, that character in Apocalypse Now, it could have been a joke. You know, his character in The Great Santini, the apostle, which he acted and directed in, which is insane.
Yeah.
You never saw him acting. And these are characters. It's like he's an actor you just didn't see acting. It's almost one of those people who I imagine, like, people go, oh, you're not acting when you're acting, which is a compliment also and a disrespect because you don't understand the craftsmanship because it's seamless with Robert Duvall. I just love him so much and such a appreciative that he's alive. You know what I mean? Even I don't know if he's making films anymore.
Daniel Day-Lewis. You know, I mean, he to me is somebody who it's like, I mean, I'm joking when I say this, but I always felt like Spielberg and Tony Kushner and Daniel Day-Lewis get together to do Lincoln. And whatever source material there was, still photographs, written accounts of how Lincoln behaved, audio recordings. I think maybe there were some. I don't think there was any film footage of him. And I see Daniel Day-Lewis as somebody who says, okay, I'm going to survey all of this material. But in the end, I'm going to come up with a character, and that's Lincoln.
Right.
And for all eternity in people's minds, that will be Lincoln.
Right.
I'm going to create the Lincoln that's going to be the Lincoln
Right.
from now on, as opposed to Raymond Massey, who did it early on
Yes.
years ago. And nothing wrong with his performance, but I think that you see guys who, just by the sheer force of their talent, you know.
What actors do you remember throughout the year? And I mean, I just named a few. I mean, you've worked with, there should be, you know, they do 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but you're at a point where it could be 6 degrees of Alec Baldwin, of people that you've worked with. What actors do you remember throughout the years? It could be recent, it could be when you were younger, where you're in a scene and you're like, they're so good, where just for a moment during a take or a rehearsal or a close-up where you go, they kind of take you out of it and you're watching
Well, I was
them.
going to do a movie, and we went and did a reading of the script at a hotel in L.A., and Deniro was going to do the movie, and he dropped out because he thought he wasn't right for the part, because the guy was kind of very waspy. I did this movie, The Edge, with Tony Hopkins, which was originally called Bookworm, and it was much more Baroque and much more psychological. They turned it into like an action film, you know, an adventure film with the bear and everything. But when they called me, I was on vacation with my ex-wife, and they called me and they said, Tony Hopkins is going to do the movie. I started to cry. And I thought, oh my God. And I showed up there to go to work. And the movie, you know, had a lot of things wrong with it, and I was not wild about how it turned out. But I got to do this movie with Tony Hopkins, and I was so that was the greatest experience I've ever had shooting a movie because it was a lead role. If I do Bob's, if I do
The Good Shepherd.
if I do Good Shepherd with Bob, that was just in and out in a couple weeks, and Marty and people like that, Nichols, smaller roles. But when you play a lead role with somebody who you really like, Harold Becker, who did Sea of Love, and he did other great films, Taps. We did this movie Malice, which was this very tepid kind of thriller with me, Bill Pullman, and Nicole Kidman. But I learned a lot from Harold. He was great. He was really very actor friendly. So, but I must say that the time we spent up in Canada shooting The Edge with Tony, that was probably the greatest experience I've ever had.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yo, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this interview. Let me know what you thought of Alec Baldwin. Let me know what your favorite Alec Baldwin performance was. I appreciate you guys watching.